I don't know. Next page. Second page. Okay, consideration of the draft there. In the class.
The speaker.
I see that I was present at the meeting and I spoke at the meeting, and the issues that I spoke to, I don't see them reflected in your minutes. Other than that, I'm not hearing anybody making any corrections. Can we then proceed on the understanding that your officials will relook at the record of the meeting and appropriately correct them with the inclusion of the issues we raised right towards the end of the meeting?
On page 5, the speaker, is that what you're referring to, sir? The
No,
paragraph from the bottom.
It was soon after the discussion of the program. Let me just see. Oh, yeah. No, it's correct. Sorry, I'm making a mistake here. It's
All right.
captured. Yeah, okay. All right, let's proceed. Who moves?
Deputy Speaker, I move for adoption. Singh here.
Honorable Singh moves. Any seconder?
Swart was second. Thank you.
Steve Swart, thank you very much. Honorable members, the meeting are proposed and seconded as correct record of our meeting. Let's go to the next agenda there, matters arising. Have you noted them? Any member wishes to speak on matters arising?
Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Singh.
Thank you very much. There's a few matters. I missed the end of the Chief Whip's forum yesterday, unfortunately. On the section 25, when's that motion coming through? Extension. And then the other matter is whether the Speaker was able to communicate with the Executive to check the delay on legislation. Yeah, and the third matter is, okay, that's it for now, thanks.
Okay. Can we get some quick responses there?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming that the leader of government business is there in case the Speaker is not able to connect and give us a response here. Okay, go ahead.
Speaker, I will be able to assist you with 3 issues raised. I hope I did not miss an issue.
Okay.
Right. Just before I do so, the Chief Whip was just requesting that maybe if the meeting could consider just delaying a little bit because they are trying to come into the meeting. ICT, please assist all the members that are in the waiting room. There have been some connectivity issues and we apologize for that. But just to give feedback, sir, letters have been addressed to both the President and the leader of government business in relation to the issue of the bills that were mentioned last week. So the letters have been addressed to those 2 offices. In relation to the Section 25 matter, at the Chief Whip's forum, the issue was discussed, and it was agreed that the motion will be done next week, Tuesday, the Section 25. Our understanding is that the deadline will be the end of November 2020. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any comments, members? Is that okay? There's only one matter that I noticed there. The Advocate van der Merwe, I think there's a document that they said they would present to brief members.
Yes. Legal services is ready, sir.
Okay.
Legal services is ready. Am I right, Advocate van der Merwe, to present on the IEC matter?
I am.
All right. They are ready, sir.
Okay. Okay, please proceed. Let her proceed. Honorable van der Merwe, please proceed.
It's Advocate Adhikari. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning, Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable Members and colleagues. I will briefly sum up the application and then focus on the way forward. So the challenge before the Constitutional Court was against the Electoral Act insofar that it does not allow independent candidates to stand for election. Parliament, in fact, agreed to abide by the court's decision and to file an explanatory memorandum. And this was mainly to alert the court to the time period and to request a period of 36 months to correct the defect. The Minister of Home Affairs and the Electoral Commission opposed the application. The matter was argued in August 2019, but we only received judgment on the 11th of June 2020. So we waited quite a while. On page 2, the majority of the Constitutional Court found, there was one minority judge, the majority found that exclusive party proportional representation could no longer be used. They considered that Schedule 6 to the Constitution was only meant for the first election. The court accepted that the electoral system must, in general, according to the Constitution, result in proportional representation, but the court felt that proportionality does not equate to exclusive party proportional representation. So with regards to Section 18, there are these three provisions that I think are quite important because it will also inform considerations going forward. With regard to Section 18 on freedom of association, the court found that freedom of association is both a positive and a negative right. And so, in other words, you have the freedom to associate as well as the freedom to not associate. On Section 19, with regards to political choices, in that section, the opening phrase uses the word includes, and then it lists some provisions that all refer to parties. And the court felt that the word includes means that it's included, but it doesn't exclude. There's equally a right for non-party membership to stand for elections, for persons' independence, in other words. Most importantly for me was that the court departed from our normal understanding on Section 1D, which is a founding provision which talks to multi-party system of democracy. There the court says that it does not require exclusively party-based proportional system, and confirmed the view that the court held that it includes also participation of independent candidates. And then, of course, there's also the question of membership ceasing when you no longer have membership of the party. On that issue, the court said that that provision is simply where you nominated through the party, then you lose membership through the party, but that again does not individual membership, the possibility of that. Now, for these reasons, the court found, and others, but these are mainly the provisions that the decision was based on, to declare the Electoral Act unconstitutional. On our representation of on the issue of 36 months, the court considered our representation reasonable in light of this very complex policy decisions that must be taken and everything else that must be put in place. But it felt because there's so little time left for the elections, there needed to be sufficient time at the end of the new system, whatever system is developed or emanates from the review of the statute. There must be enough time for the Electoral Commission to put their house in order, and also for independents who want to campaign to do so. So the date by which this defect must be corrected is 10th June 2020. So in other words, I'm on page 5. In other words, the way ahead then is that...
No. Sorry. It can't be June 2020.
2022, sorry. 2022.
Thank you. Yeah. Just so that people who are listening And we were right, you don't write the incorrect dates. Yes.
Sorry, that might have been a slip of the tongue. So the way ahead then is that the whole electoral system must be reviewed, and the process will require extensive development of policy so that the new electoral system can accommodate independent candidates. We list just a few considerations, which I'm sure the members have gone through, but some of these will obviously have to be considered in developing the new policy, such as what happens if a candidate dies and that seat is vacated. How does one then fill that seat? There's obviously that consideration.
Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait.
Am I heard? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And so what happens then when an independent candidate vacates?
Your call has been placed on hold. Please wait.
How does that seat get filled? So, and also, what if one candidate wins so many votes that it qualifies for 5 seats? How does one person fill 5 seats? So those kind of things means that it necessitates a whole rework of the electoral system. We can't simply amend what we have. So I think it's quite clear that it requires a full consideration of a new government policy decision before one can assess whether amending the existing law or developing a completely new bill is required. So in conclusion, we propose that the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs invites the Minister of Home Affairs as soon as possible to address the committee on the steps that they intend taking to start off this process. We are aware that the IEC has publicly made the challenges that they are faced with quite clear, and they are presenting today at the Home Affairs Committee. So they've also raised quite interesting challenges in their submission that I've been through. And it's very important on this matter that the Executive and Parliament collaborates on a timeline that's very carefully managed so that that deadline of 10th June 2022 can be met. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, can we have your comment on the report?
Swart, thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Swart, yes, go ahead.
No, thank you for the presentation. It's much appreciated. And I think the emphasis is on the time-consuming nature of the process. And I think, Deputy Speaker, we will need to monitor that very closely from Parliament's side, given that we, as Parliament, asked for 36 months and we have only been given 24 months. And we know this is an issue you've raised, I've raised, non-compliance with Constitutional Court orders in the past due to time delays. So I think this, we support a very strict timeline, and we need to hold the executive to account because this is a very extensive policy development process. Obviously, we are aware that the Fiscal Commission looked into this in the past, as well as the Motlanta high-level panel. So these are all issues that the executive will look at when they develop policy. But from Parliament's side, we need to ensure that strict timelines are accorded with. And so I support the proposals from the legal advisors. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Swart. Yes, I'll come to you, Honourable Singh. Honourable Swart, in future, you must refer to that high-level panel report as the Speakers Forum high-level panel. The panel is disbanded.
My apologies, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable Motlanta is my president in both ways, but the commission was commissioned by the Speakers Forum. It's better referred to as such. So thank you very much. I know you are using shorthand, but that's acceptable. But let's do it correctly in future. Honourable Singh, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and thank you for the presentation. Deputy Speaker, I think there is no nexus here between the Van Zyl-Slabbert Commission report and what the court has pronounced on. The court was quite specific. And I think if the Committee of Parliament wants to extend this into making it a comprehensive exercise, then so be it. But I think my own view, I'm not a lawyer, but my own view is that the focus is purely on allowing independents to participate in national and provincial elections. And secondly, there will be consequential amendments or considerations, for example, the Political Party Funding Act. So I think the committees have to also look at that. If you allow independents now, how do they get funded? Because there is a funding model. So all that will have to come into play. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Deputy Speaker, may I please proceed?
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Speaker. Now, if I may start off with the judgment, I find the judgment. Let me constrain myself. I find it a strange judgment. I think the Constitutional Court should have had a look at their own judgment when the Constitutional Court certified the Constitution in 1996. When the same Constitutional Court found that the constitutional writers decided that political parties should be the method in terms of which the will of the electorate should be expressed, but be that as it may. We don't have a choice. We have to follow the short time period of 24 months. The question I would like to ask is, do we have to wait for the executive to formalize policy, or could Parliament proceed in the meantime, be that by way of a workshop or with hearings, just in terms of the issues, before we actually one day get something from the executive itself? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's a question.
Can I be recognized, Deputy Speaker?
Please go ahead, Madam Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
You are recognized.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Microsoft Teams is not a good connection system or platform to be used, really. And we've been raising this thing time and again, Deputy Speaker. It's not nice to enter a meeting at this late hour, struggling to connect. Deputy Speaker and honorable members, I want to agree with Mr. Mulder that this is a very strange judgment. Be that as may, the ball is in the court of Parliament. The instruction or the judgment is that let Parliament amend the Electoral Act, and we're given 24 months. Honestly speaking, that is unfair. This is a very cumbersome exercise that we have to enter into as Parliament. There are a lot of issues that must be looked at. One, when you talk about independent candidates at a provincial and national level, what type of a ballot paper are you talking about? What will be the prescripts of one to be voted on legislature or for him or her to join national parliament? What if this person dies? What happens on the list? Because there is no list of independent candidates. Given all those, and this does not only impact on one act, which is Electoral Act, it has an impact on multiple acts that must be looked at, close to 6-7 acts that must be looked at, and therefore this time frame of 24 months is just unfair. And the sooner we make a judiciary know, because whilst we respect judiciary, but at times the judiciary overreach. And I'm not attacking judiciary, but judiciary overreach to an extent that we are lawmakers and we are supposed to follow each and every process. But to give us 24 months that must be done with this process, this is a very involved process that we must follow each and every step and ensure that whatever outcome that will come out of Parliament is a well-processed item or outcome. It cannot just be subjected to hurry this thing and deliver proper results on time. I feel that we still have to. It's a very ambitious sort of a judgment, and the presentation that this is a minority, the majority agreed on this. It's neither here nor there. The fact is there's this judgment that has been communicated, and people out there are looking forward for Parliament to amend the Act, but the processes towards doing that is an involved process. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment?
Yes, Deputy Speaker.
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Indeed, Speaker, I think one thing that
I know you mean deputy. Ne?
Yes, Deputy Speaker.
Yes, thank you very much.
I'm not going to just talk about the judgment itself, but I just want to pick on encroachment sometimes of the judiciary in the work of Parliament. And we do know that what came with constitutional democracy was that the sovereignty of Parliament has been taken away. And it's because of the spirit of wanting to actually make it a point that the country is actually run through democratic principles, so that we don't find ourselves in the past situation of having Parliament that would pass unjust laws that oppressed the people of the country. But at the same time, for now, we talk about consultative processes that are democratic, that needs to involve all citizens whenever legislation has to be passed. And it's about people really determining their destiny. But lately, what is actually more and more coming out is decisions that are actually made by courts that actually just instructs Parliament. And it's not based on the fact that we've got to change because there is something unjust. Because if there was actually a logical argument about how unjust whatever is taking place is, to the extent that it actually makes the lives of the citizens difficult, it would make sense. But I think it's a debate at a different forum about encroachment and what it means for us as the three arms of state to work within the constitutional democracy. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I think the decision that we are making here is that the Constitutional Court has made a decision. Parliament must organize itself appropriately to undertake a very complex set of processes to fulfill the requirement of the judgment. Any debates that we may have about issues relating to our relationship will be secondary, can come in the process and later communicated in the appropriate forum and structures with substantiation. I suggest that we do that Parliament will initiate a series of steps to develop a common understanding of the judgment and the practical implications of the steps we must take to fulfill the requirement of meeting the legislative recommendations, so to speak, that will make sense and have impact on the outcome, so that by the time we go to 2024, all our ducks are in the row by the IEC, by candidates who wish to contest elections, by political parties, and so on. So the time frames we have, the 24 months, let's begin, we should have begun yesterday, so that we can set in place the series of steps necessary. So that's one of the matters that arose. So I think that's the way we should proceed. The next item that we should deal
Deputy
with,
Speaker, it's Natasha.
Yes, Natasha. Please remember
Deputy
that
Speaker,
we will have an opportunity to debate
of course,
this matter.
I do understand,
yes.
Deputy Speaker.
Go ahead,
Deputy
yes.
Speaker, I don't wish to debate. I wish to ask if it would be possible for the Programming Committee to request that Legal Services compile a document for this particular Programming Committee, in which they do an analysis of the Party Funding Act together with this particular judgment that's come out, and how one would then define a political party and an independent candidate in terms of the way both parties would then need to disclose their funders to enable them to form part of an election. And I think that document would go a long way in assisting many members. So it's not a debate, it's a request, please, Deputy Speaker.
No, Honorable Mazoni, what you're suggesting is the process that needs to be followed. Firstly, a proper understanding of the judgment, the various implications, legal, practical, financial, and all of those issues must be identified and tabled, and then processes undertook to resolve them, both politically, legally, and financially. So that, as you say, you are suggesting, in effect, that can we go and sit down and tease out what this judgment means for the work we have to do from a variety of those angles. So, and that function shouldn't be done by a programming committee. I think the appropriate structures in Parliament and the committees that are relevant to managing these processes should be pulled together. If we want to add to them, let it be the case. I would suggest that the presiding officers would look at this matter, working with the chief whips to inform them of the appropriate process that should be followed to complete the process properly with all the issues that you have raised in this meeting. Thank you, honorable members. Let's go to the report of the committee.
Good morning, Honorable Deputy Speaker, honorable members and colleagues. The presentation from committees, we will start with slide number 27, with your permission, Honorable Speaker. On this slide, we are showing the budget instruments that are before Parliament. And the next slide, which is slide number 28, I will start explaining how each instrument is going to be processed. On this slide, number 28, it is the revised fiscal framework. The activities are identified there. The highlight is on the 7th of July, when the committee will finalize and consider the report. The next slide is slide number 29. On this slide, it is the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill processing before Standing Committee on Appropriation. We also indicate the number of activities. The main highlight is on the 14th of July, when the committee consider and adopt the report. The next update is on slide number 30. It is the Adjustment Appropriation Bill, also before the Standing Committee on Appropriations. We are also showing the different dates for processing, but the main highlight is on the 28th of July, when the committee consider and adopt the report. Next update is on slide number 31. It is now the tax bills, Disaster Management Tax Relief Bill, that is before Standing Committee on Finance. The processing of this bill will be scheduled normally after the 3 budget instruments are processed. The committee finalize the tax bills. Another update is on slide number 32. It is the Disaster Management Tax Relief Amendment Bill, which is also before the Standing Committee on Finance. The committee will also schedule the processing of this bill. The next update, Honorable Deputy Speaker, is on slide number 35. Now, on this slide, we want to report that the President's determination of salaries before PC on Justice and Correctional Services has been finalized on the 19th of June. The next update is on slide number 36. The matter here, it is the firearms amnesty matter. The committee is aiming to finish the report on the 26th, which is tomorrow. The next update is on slide number 38. It is the ad hoc committee to appoint the Auditor General. We can report that the committee met yesterday to elect the chairperson and also craft the program. And we show different dates on various activities will be taking place. And the committee is planning to adopt the report on the 25th of August. The next update, Deputy Speaker, is on slide number 41. It is the matter of NYDA. The update here is just to indicate that the consideration of the committee program is scheduled for the 30th of June, but the date to finalize has not changed. Then the next update is on petitions. 3 petitions before PC on COCTA. Deputy Speaker, the update is on slide number 43. It is the petition from Zanin community, Litsitele ward. The committee has finalized the consideration. What is left, it is to adopt the report. On slide number 44, it is the petition from Naisna United. The committee on this also has dealt with deliberations. What is left is to adopt the report. And also on slide number 45, it is a petition from Freedom of Religion South Africa. The committee also had deliberations on the 24th, which was yesterday, and what is left is to adopt the report. This concludes our presentation, Honorable Deputy Speaker, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give the Bills Office a chance to report, and then we'll discuss both.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Division of Revenue Bill and the Appropriation Bill were assented to by the President on Monday, 22 June. On page 4 of the report on bills, which is on display, it reflects the money and tax bills introduced yesterday. And now that I know what the committee section program looks like, the Bills Office can develop its own program to shadow these bills through Parliament and work on the official second language texts. There are a few Labour bills in the pipeline that have been approved by Cabinet, and we are following up on Joint Rule 159 compliance, which basically means referral to the relevant committees. The one is the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Amendment Bill, which inter alia would look at aiming to include domestic workers under employees for purposes of benefits under the Act. And the other one is the Employment Equity Amendment Bill, which will look at removing the requirement for psychological testing and similar assessments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, you've got the Bills Office and the committee section reports. Any comments?
Yes, Deputy Speaker, it's Mkhalipi.
Yes, Mkhalipi.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I just want to get a clarity on petitions.
Yeah.
Is reported on slide number 43, and all those petitions have been processed on the COCTA committee. I just want to understand the process on it, Speaker, because yesterday the committee was discussing a petition from 23 from Zanin, and it was having 2 items as a complaint from 23. One of the items was that the 23 community is complaining about the illegal crossing of cows in town. So I just want to understand if the office just received petitions, if there is no other way that you must just check and possible try to intervene instead of sending to a portfolio committee. The whole portfolio committee must debate or engage on the illegal crossing of cows. The whole 3 minutes. I think there must be another way to check instead of just sending to the committee to process this petition. Thank you.
No, I think you're right, because there should be evidence that they did work with the municipality, for example, did not get any positive outcome, and the provincial department too did not provide any assistance, amongst others, because the Constitution requires of us to cooperate across the 3 spheres of government. So it does appear odd that perhaps what we need to do is to ask why, in this instance, if it was not followed, what the reasons were leading it to go there. We know that the committees can summon anybody and so on, but the context of petitions needs to be clarified. In this instance, is there any explanation from the bills and rather the committee?
Deputy Speaker, I think the explanation would come from us, as Paso here.
Yes, go ahead.
We would just need to look into that specific issue, Deputy Speaker.
Yeah.
I would imagine that there may have been other issues that were contained in the petition, could not have just been about the cows, but we will look into it and just understand exactly what was the issue there.
What happened, yeah. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Is there any other comment, members? None. Let's proceed to the next item on the agenda.
Speaker.
Sorry?
Can I be recognized?
The chief.
Yes.
Go ahead.
MS. Speaker, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Why you going to go? Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I fully support Honorable Mkhaliphi that there must be a sifting of these petitions. We cannot be dealing with each and every. Today is a bird sitting on top of an electric wire. Then there is a petition that is sent to Parliament. Really, Parliament is going to tend to be a mockery. When petitions are referred to a committee, there must be a clear paper trail to say what has happened in terms of reporting at all spheres before it reaches Parliament. And if there are certain steps or offices that have not been contacted on this matter, it must just be sent back, because now Parliament is just sending and piling all these petitions without having assessed those petitions to go to committees, and it is not fair. We have a lot of work to do here, but others can just be summarized and be dealt with at a local level where the incident has happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, let's go to the consideration of the program.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Deputy.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.
Program that is on the screen. Today being Thursday, the 25th of June, we will later have caucus by political parties from 10 o'clock. And then in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, we'll have plenary up to 17 hours. And the main business of the day will be questions to the Deputy President. And then we proceed to tomorrow, Friday, the 26th of June, which will be Youth Parliament. That's the main business of the day. Can we proceed to the next day? Can you, on the screen? On the 30th, that is Tuesday, Monday, the 29th will be constituency day. Tuesday the 30th will be from 10 to 12:45 will be committees, and at 2 o'clock there will be plenary. And the main business of the day, besides the reports that are on the screen, is the debate on gender-based violence, a motion that has actually been sponsored by the EFF. And that will actually then be the end of our program for this term. And for the third term, we have actually taken some days in the third term due to the supplementary budget process, which means we will actually require to convene on the 8th of July for the report on revised fiscal framework. And then again, we will meet on the 15th of July for the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. And then in between, the bill will be sent to the NCOP between the week of the 20th and the 24th. And during that week, what has been agreed on at the Chief Whips Forum was that there should be mini plenaries. And then again, the bill will come back to the House on the 29th of July for consideration of the Adjustment Appropriation Bill. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members.
Deputy Speaker?
Yes.
Honorable Frolik here.
Please go ahead, Ndati.
Yeah. No, good morning, Honorable Deputy Speaker and members of the Chief Whips Forum. Before we go further into the program, I want to make an intervention based on the tabling of the Special Adjustment Appropriation Bill and the related instruments yesterday by the Minister of Finance. This will have a profound impact on the program for July, and we have prepared an advisory note as well as a proposal that will be circulated immediately after the NAPC to all the Chief Whips as well as to the Office of the Speaker. I've been in consultation last night until late, and I also wish to thank the assistance of the NA table so that we can move this process forward. Honorable members, you will recall that at the time when the Programming Committee considered the appropriation bill, we indicated that there's a possibility that there will be major changes that will be effected in the Special Adjustments Bill. We want once again to thank the Chief Whips and the NA Programming Committee for agreeing for us not to have a substantial process that involved mini plenaries at the time. And we said that once the Special Adjustment Appropriation Bill is tabled, we will come back with a proposal. We are thus honoring that commitment now. I wish to report as follows, and this will be for consideration, not in this meeting now. The proposal must be taken back to the Chief Whips Forum for parties to discuss further there, and then to request the Honourable Chief Whip to report back to programming at its next meeting. In terms of the Adjustment Appropriation Bill that was tabled yesterday, Honourable Members, there are changes proposed to 40 of the budget. Some have significant changes, and others what we term marginal changes. Appropriation Bill as originally tabled. The votes with budgets that have been revised upwards are 7. And it also includes one of the votes, GCIS, which is a marginal adjustment of 30 million rand. The others are quite substantial, with the lion's share going to social development, where the adjustment runs beyond 25 billion rand. Then there are votes with budgets that are revised downwards. 31 budgets are affected by this. 13 are substantial. And when I say substantial, it's in the region of R500 million plus. 18 of these votes are marginal, where there are lower amounts that have been adjusted downwards, where money has been taken away from certain programs in the department. Then there are certain votes that has not been revised upward or downward. There's 2 votes that are affected by this. And then there's 1 budget vote with no changes. That's public works and infrastructure. Now, the proposal is as follows, Deputy Speaker. We are proposing that all these votes where changes have taken place be referred, as the Speaker did yesterday, to the relevant portfolio committees for processing. And we do expect the portfolio committees to exercise the necessary oversight and interact with the executive and with the heads of department to see how the changes will impact on their strategic plans. Secondly, we are proposing that those votes where there are substantial changes, including those that has been revised upwards and downwards, that all those votes go for mini plenaries, and that those mini plenaries take place in the dates or during the time that was announced now by the programming whip. We also propose that those mini plenaries should happen only on the virtual platform, because we will have quite a few mini plenaries a day. After that process is concluded, we further propose that during the session when we consider the votes and the schedule, that we then give time and allocate time to parties so that they can pose questions specifically on those budget votes that were not dealt with in mini plenaries, so that they can further probe and ask questions around those matters. We do believe that this proposal will streamline the process and also ensure that the committees will have sufficient time. How will it impact on the program? It will impact on the program in that we must give more time to committees to do their work. And that's why the constituency period for July must be completely reconsidered. Already now, I'm signing off applications from both the Standing Committee on Finance and the Standing Committee on Appropriations to start their work so that they are ready to report by the 8th of July to the House. Committees will thus be expected to develop programs to allow them to exercise the necessary mechanisms of oversight and report back to the House. That date for reporting back to the House will be determined in line with the critical dates that has been announced. I must indicate in conclusion, Honourable Deputy Speaker, that under normal circumstances, the adjustment appropriation bill is not referred to the different committees. But the reason why we're doing it now, it is business unusual, and there are substantive changes either upwards or downwards that will impact on the strategic plans of these departments, and it's important for members to exercise the necessary oversight so that members and other stakeholders, including the public, is aware of exactly where these changes are occurring, and to ensure that proper implementation and rollout of the budget takes place once it has been approved by the National Assembly and subsequently by the NCOP. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Deputy Speaker is missing.
Unmute, Deputy Speaker.
No, he's missing. You know, I don't leave any vacuum. Let's proceed.
No, Honorable Singh is here, so he can proceed. Kapesa.
Who?
Thank you very much. I didn't hear anything.
We cannot just take
Kapesa can proceed.
Honorable members, can we proceed?
Yes.
I suspect the Deputy Speaker has the same problem I've had with the sound disappearing. Please proceed. Are there questions?
Yes, Speaker.
Okay, Mem Kalipe, I'm sorry, Ntateli Chisa, I think you have my problem the whole morning of having no sound. Mem Kalipe, Chief Whip.
And Singh.
Ntate Singh.
Swart as well, Speaker.
Ntate Swart in that order. Mem Kalipe.
Yes, Speaker. Speaker, thanks very much for the Yeah, thank you very much, Speaker. Yesterday in a Chiefs Forum, there was an indication when the program was tabled, and Babu Kaso started by presenting a document that he was not sure about the committees that will be affected. He explained to the members to say that there will be an indication after the minister has spoken. So therefore, as a Chiefs Forum, we raise
Are you going to? Siyabethwa ke izinyanya namhlanje. Chief Whip, take the gap.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, on the programming, just to finish off where Mama Mkalipi left off, we discussed this matter yesterday in the Chiefs Forum because we were agreeing to the fact that there will be some changes on the program, and I want to make a submission that as whips, we are going to be flexible in accommodating those changes. For instance, the process is moving forward. It's going to have a serious impact on constituency period that is supposed to start on the 1st, because according to that program that was tabled by Mr. Kaso, a draft program yesterday, and what Mr. Frolik has just said right now, it means we'll have less than 10 days to do constituency work, because there are almost 40 portfolio committees that are affected, and therefore committees must come back and be able to do work, but also must also open up a space for mini plenaries. And so I want to agree with Mr. Frolik that let the Chiefs Forum finalize it, but in principle, let's agree in this NAPC that our constituency period will be severely affected, and we must look for another time or month for us to be able to do constituency period, because of these time frames that govern or the money bills, for us to be able to finalize this process. Thank you.
Okay, Mem Kalipi, you are back. Did she cover all your points, or do you want to finish off where you were cut off?
Yes, I'm partly covered, Speaker, but just Speaker.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm partly covered by the Chief Whip of the ANC. But the question to Honorable Frolik, as I heard him saying that the document will be sent to the Chief Whips, because he was presenting what he is alluding to the effect of the programs, is that according to my understanding, Speaker, the period which is oversight will start from the end of July to August. And when I was listening to Honorable Frolik, was emphasizing on the point that the committees that are affected, they must do the oversight on this adjustment. So therefore, if you can clarify, since the period of the oversight will take place, or is supposed to take place end of July to August, how is going to be a way forward in that regard? Thank you, Speaker.
Okay, Ntate Singh.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Firstly, I just want to say that the document presented to us yesterday by Honourable Kaso, I see most of those dates have been accommodated in the program that's been tabled before us. And I think the principle of thorough interrogation of the votes, whether they've been increased or decreased, is going to be absolutely necessary. But I just want to speak to the principle that Honourable Frolik has placed before us, that perhaps, and then without having those documents in front of us, it puts us at a disadvantage, and that's why I agree that we must look at it on Wednesday. We must have full debates, mini plenaries on all those votes which have increased substantially, and we can define substantially, either upwards or downwards. And on the other ones, we can do questions during the votes and schedules. So I just want to support that principle. But like Honourable Frolik said, we cannot finalize that today until we've seen all those documents, and probably the table can present us with the increases and decreases in those respective votes for us to consider this matter on Wednesday. But I agree with the principle that we don't have mini plenaries on every single vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ntate Swart.
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate the input from the House Chair, and we'll study the program. I just want to support the sentiment that we need as committees to integrate the changes of these budget votes, how the funding is going to impact service delivery. And then secondly, going forward, once the funds have been allocated, given the high levels of government debt, how they are spent, committees are going to have to exercise far greater oversight to ensure that every cent that is spent is correctly spent. Given what the Minister said yesterday, that of every rand collected, 21 cents goes towards paying interest. So thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, are there any other members before I let the Honourable Frolik back on? None? Dr. Frolik, you've got the floor.
No, thank you. Good morning, Speaker. No, thank you, Chief Whips. The document is ready. It will be distributed immediately after this meeting. In terms of what the Honourable Mkalipi said of what's going to happen in August, I think that is part of the discussions that must take place in the Chief Whips Forum, Speaker, so that the Chief Whip will be able to report back, because it will have a knock-on effect on what has been decided for August. May I also add, Speaker, that the request is that we must be seized during July with the budget instruments in front of us, and not on anything else. And we must keep sittings of the National Assembly to a minimum to concentrate on those critical dates as it already appears in the program. If we add other things to the program of Parliament during this phase, unless it's of critical importance, it will impact on our dates that has been decided upon and tabled here in the programming committee. And we really wish the support of parties when we engage in this very, very important process, because members have an expectation now that the instruments have been tabled, that committees will have sufficient time to do the necessary work. But thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Well, thank you very much. Honourable members, I hear us saying that we are going to have to relook at our parliamentary program, that we might not have constituency work. That is a recommendation that will come back from the deliberations of the Chief Whips, but that we must really be following the new adjustments, whether they are positive or negative. We must make sure that every cent is spent. So I trust that we will allow the Chief Whips to go deliberate, consult, come back to us, so that by the next NAPC, we do have a firm program for July. Am I understanding everybody correct? Thank you very much.
Correct, Speaker.
Yeah.
Honourable Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Honourable Speaker, in looking at this second term program, it says we are rising on the 30th. I want to suggest that in the light of what we are discussing now, the Chief Whips Forum must meet next week. The NAPC must meet next week for us to be able to finalize the program. We cannot rise on the 30th, go away and not have those two critical meetings for us to be able to finalize this parliamentary program. I so move.
Thank you, ma'am. That is exactly what I was hoping for. That in fact there is a possibility that we won't rise on the 30th, but that we leave the Chief Whips to go and deliberate and come back to us with a firm proposal on the table. Honourable members, is there any other matter on item 7? None. I then
Madam
wish
Speaker,
to apologize.
Madam Speaker, yes. Julius,
Member
good
Papo.
morning.
Member Papo, Ndate Julius, the two of you. Ndate Papo.
From what the Chief Whip was saying, I think it's important that political parties sensitize members about the period which is coming, because some members psychologically are already working on rising, and it may create a problem for them not to understand that portfolio work will be happening, just to sensitize them so that they are aware that portfolio work will be happening. Anyway, members had already agreed that immediately after the adjustment budget, we will be doing work. Plenaries will be happening, and that's the way we agreed on not having mini plenaries. So I'm just raising the issue of sensitization, because you are aware that some of our members, once they psychologically prepare themselves for something, you may have problems of apologies in committees and things like that.
No, point taken. Ndate Julius?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. I think it will also impact on the questions to the President and the Deputy President at next term. So I would just advise that we start with that process so that we can maybe by next week or the week after that get clarity on dates for the third term, because it's not already on the program for the third term. Because the third term will be impacted by this if we have, like the Chief Whip of the ANC said, if we should have a constituency period, maybe in August, I suspect, that we start with the dates of the President and the Deputy President. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Point taken. Members, is there any other matter? None. I must apologize this morning. We logged in and all we could see was your beautiful faces and your mouths going on. I did not have sound. And that is why I couldn't join in. So I had to get somebody to troubleshoot from afar so that we can at least hear what you were saying. But I thank you very much for the opportunity to meet up with you again virtually, and hope that the Chief Whips will meet as soon as possible so that we can come back to our justice. And I take the point raised by the Honorable Papo, the point raised by the Honorable Julius, that we need to be sensitive to dates, but also to expectations of members. Honorable members, if that, is there any member who has any announcement? None. I do not have any, except to thank you for attending. Thank you very much. This meeting is closed.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Castro? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Dali.
Missing you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.